Hi everyone, welcome back to Wilde Reads. My name is Dave. It's wrap-up time again. This is my December wrap-up. Roll the titles. Hi everyone, welcome back. As I said in the introduction, this is going to be my December wrap-up. Now, I have to fess up in advance. I have a confession to make. You may remember that in my November wrap-up, when it was non-fiction November, I didn't have a particularly great reading month. And I did promise to have a fantastic reading month in December. That didn't go so well. It started off brilliantly. I started off December, the first fortnight, the first 2 weeks, I read 5 books. The second 2 weeks, however, I didn't read any books. I very much took my foot completely off the gas in the second half of December. I think it was Christmas coming up. It was busy, hugely busy in work. I just couldn't get into a book. I was in a book. I was supposed to be reading The Sparsholt Affair, which was a buddy read with a load of other booktubers, and that particular book started off brilliantly and then sort of petered out, and I didn't read anything else after that. So what I thought was going to be a fantastic December turned out to be a pretty average December, actually. But I did finish 5 books, and I will go through those books with you right now. Links to all the books that you will see in this video can be found in the show notes down there. So the first book I read back in December was Midwinter Break by Bernard McClaverty. Now this is Bernard McClaverty's first novel in 16 years since he was last shortlisted for the Booker with, I believe, and I haven't looked this up so I'm doing this from memory, I think he was shortlisted for the Booker for a novel called Grace Notes. This is his first book in 16 years. It's very, very good. It's about a retired couple. Now this couple are having, this couple live in Northern Ireland. They've been married for a very, very long time. They decide to take a midwinter break to Amsterdam. Their kids have left home. They decide to take a break in Amsterdam. And the title can either refer to, as it says, a midwinter break in Amsterdam, or it can refer to their troubled marriage. Now, the reason that their marriage is in trouble is they've been together, they've both been career people. This is Jerry and Stella, the main protagonists in this book, or the couple. And they've been married a very, very long time. Their children have left home, they've grown up and left home. So as often happens in these cases, when you've been together an awful long time and your children have left, you suddenly realise that it's just you two. You two are the only things left. And if you've had, as Jerry and Stella have in this book, if you've had an awful long career and you've been raising the children as well, you haven't really been keeping an eye on the relationship. And what happens in these cases is that couples tend to drift apart. It's happened time and time again. It happens all over the world, in all different cultures and societies. This is what's happened to this couple, and this book is a brilliant reflection on basically relationships and the way that they can disintegrate if we don't pay them enough attention. It's very delicate, it's brilliantly written. I really loved the way this book was written. Really, really enjoyed reading it. There's a brilliant line in this about getting old. And I can't remember whether it's Jerry or Stella said, they said, every time I open my glasses case, I'm pleasantly surprised to find my glasses. And that just sums it up, really. It's a brilliant novel. And it does detail as well Jerry's dependence on drink. The husband in the novel has developed quite a severe drink problem that he tries all sorts of ways to hide this from his wife, Stella, over the course of this weekend as well and throughout their lives. He doesn't think that she knows about it, but of course she does. It's very detailed. It's a brilliantly written book, and I'm really, really pleased that I got round to reading this. So this is thoroughly recommended. It's not very big. This is published by Jonathan Cape. So I've read this in hardback. The paperback came out on the 4th of January. So the paperback is available now for this book if you'd like it. It's 243 pages in hardback. It's 256 pages in paperback, available now. There is a link for this down in the show notes down below. It's a really, really good book. It's delicate, it's subtle, but it's very hard-hitting, and it's very, very true to life. The next book I read in December was The Vegetarian by Han Kang. This is a tiny little book, but it's very, very powerful. This won the Man Booker International Prize 2016. This is a powerhouse, an absolute powerhouse of a book. It's brilliantly written and brilliantly translated. I'm very interested now in reading the other book of Han Kang, which is Human Acts. So if anyone's read that, would you please let me know in the comments down below what you thought of it. I know I have seen it doing the rounds on the socials. This was a very powerful book. I'm just going to read you the blurb. Yong Hai and her husband are ordinary people. He is an office worker, she is a dutiful wife. Their marriage is interrupted when Yong Hai, seeking a more plant-like existence, commits a shocking act of subversion. She refuses to eat meat. Thus begins a disturbing and thrilling psychological drama about taboo, desire, rebellion and fantasy. The Vegetarian is a haunting masterpiece with the power to change its reader's view of the world. Now, I don't know if my view of the world was changed by this book, but it is indeed a very powerful piece of writing. So again, I can thoroughly recommend that if you're new to fiction in translation, or you just want to read something that's a little bit different and still sticks in the mind. I would recommend that. It's a brilliant book. The next book I read in December is a book that you may have seen me include in my, I think it was in the second half of my best books or best reads of 2017, and that's Under the Skin by Michelle Faber. Now, I said in that video, and I still stand by it, I wouldn't have gone near this book if it hadn't been recommended to me by Jen Campbell. In fact, Jen Campbell gave me this copy. It's a sci-fi horror, which would usually fill me with horror, and I'd run the other way because it's not, sci-fi is not my thing and horror is not my thing. This book is absolutely fantastic. Without giving too much away, and it's difficult to talk about this book without giving too much away, but there's a woman and she's picking up hitchhikers in Scotland, but there are a few conditions to this. The hitchhikers have to be male and they have to be well built. They have to have a good physique, and the reason for that soon becomes very clear as you get further into the book. The only clue I can give you is that the main protagonist in this is a woman called Isserley. It quickly becomes apparent that she may not be all that she first appears to be. This is gripping. Absolutely gripping. I read this over, I think I read it over a couple of mornings and a couple of evenings. It was quite brilliant, and it just brings home what a fantastic writer Michelle Faber is. You may know him for the Fahrenheit Twins or The Crimson Petal in the White, and various other books, but he is quite a brilliant writer, and this book was I'm so glad I read it. And this is a great edition as well. This is the Canon's edition, which they save for their best-selling books. They reissue them with these gorgeous new covers, these sort of waxy metallicized covers. But it's a brilliant book, absolutely fantastic read, so thoroughly enjoyed that. Had no hesitation with giving it 5 stars. The next book I read was The Lemon Grove by Helen Walsh. Now, I was a bit apprehensive about reading this because I didn't think it was going to really be my thing, but Vicky had read it and she recommended it to me, so I picked it up and it seemed like quite an easy read, and it was quite enjoyable. I haven't got it to hand, so I'll show you the cover up here. So I'll just read you the blurb from the back. So Helen Walsh's The Lemon Grove is a tense, sensuous story of a marriage ripped apart by desire and obsession. Set in the Mallorcan summer holiday resort of Daya, perfect for readers who loved Apple Tree Yard, it is soon to be a major film. Each summer, Jen and her husband Greg return to Daya on Mallorca's dramatic west coast. This year, the arrival of Emma, Jen's stepdaughter, and her new boyfriend Nathan threatens to upset their equilibrium. Beautiful and reckless, Nathan stirs something unexpected in Jen, and she is increasingly seduced by Nathan's youth and the promise of passion. The line between desire and obsession begins to blur. What follows is a highly charged liaison that puts lives and relationships in jeopardy. For Jen, after this summer, Nothing can ever be the same. Now, I would usually hold up the book at this point, but I think Vicky's taken back possession of that particular book. I've just had to read you the online blurb. I did enjoy it. It is a good book. It's a little bit simplistic at times. Sometimes that's all you need. You just want to, because you know, December was a busy time for me, as it is for a lot of people. And it's just nice just to switch off and just read something that you haven't got to think too deeply about. You can just basically just turn your mind off and read it. It was an easy read. So yeah, I did enjoy it. Not sure whether I enjoyed it enough to pick up another Helen Walsh book. It is well worth a read. So that's The Lemon Grove by Helen Walsh, and that's published by Tinder Press. And the last book I read in December was How the Trouble Started by John Williams. This is published by Faber and Faber. This is not a new book, this has been out some time, but you may have noticed that in my last, I think September's book haul and October's book haul, I read a John Williams book. So I first came across, not John Williams, sorry, Robert Williams. I first came across Robert Williams when I read Into the Trees, which I recommended in autumn last year. Then I read Luke and John, which was very good. He's only written 3 books, so I've read them all now. Well, we've both read them all. This is How the Trouble Started. Very, very good. It's quite similar in style and premise, really, to Luke and John. All it says on the back were the police were involved over the trouble. They had to be. I was just playing, I told them, but that wasn't enough. They wanted to know what I understood by intent. And on the inside, Donald Bailey is 16. He can't forget the trouble that happened when he was 8 and the police were called. His mother can't forget either, and even leaving their hometown doesn't help. Then Donald befriends Jake, who is 8 years old and terrifyingly vulnerable. As he tries to protect him, Donald fails to see the most obvious danger, and that the trouble might be closer than he thinks. Very similar in style to Luke and John, which was Robert Williams' debut novel. This one, it's great how you find an author and you just automatically click with their writing style. And this is what I find with Robert Williams. Each book that he writes, you can tune in more with it because you're more used to the style that he writes in. But yes, very much enjoyed this. This is a very good book, as are the other 2 books that Robert Williams has written. So How the Trouble Started, published by Faber, written by Robert Williams. And that is it, sadly. They are the 5 books that I read in December. Hopefully I will have a more productive reading month. Now we're into 2018 and this is January, but we'll have to wait and see. I've only set the Goodreads challenge this year at 52, so should be nice and manageable. So I hope you enjoyed that. As I said before, you can find all the links to all the books that I've mentioned in this video down in the show notes. I will be back on Wednesday with the answers video to my recently posted Q&A. So until I see you again on Wednesday, whatever you're doing this week, enjoy your books, and I will see you back here on Wednesday for another BookTube video. Take care. Bye-bye.